So in this lesson, we're going to learn a little bit about string methods. That is, things that we can do to strings to make them more useful. So for example, one of the simplest things we can do to a string is to reverse it. We can do this by calling the reverse method on any string. This could be a string that's stored as a literal, as you can see here in the quotes, or it could be a string stored in a variable. Another thing we can do to a string is to uppercase it. We can do this in Ruby by calling the .uppercase method on a string. To find out the length of a string, we simply call .length, or we can call .size. They have the same effect. In actual fact, this is not a method but an attribute. We'll learn a little more about attributes versus methods later. So we're going to get into something a little more complicated now. We're going to talk about string indexing. This is how we break apart a string into its constituent components. But before we do that, we have to understand how a string is constructed. A string is basically just a list of characters, of individual characters. To access a character in a string, we can use the square brackets. Put a number inside the brackets, and that will give us one of the characters inside that string. So in this example, we have the string hi there, and we're trying to access the character at position 3. We get the result t. Does that seem right though? Note that we're actually starting the counting from 0. So in this example, h is actually the 0th character. I is the first, the space would be the second, and t is our third. This is a technique known as cardinal indexing. We're used to ordinal indexing. So when we count something, we're used to counting it from 1, then 2, and 3, and so on. Quite often in programming, and it's no exception in Ruby, we often order things cardinally. So we start at 0 instead of 1. If we want to take a section of characters from our string, we can slice the string. To do this, we use our square bracket operators again. At this time, we put ... and a second number. This gives us a range of the characters, and we'll learn more about ranges later as well. One of the unique things about Ruby compared to other languages is that we can take negative indices. How do you take a negative position in a string? Well, in this case, negative simply means we're counting from the end of the string back. But this time we can say that counting is ornally counted in the negative range. So what that means is if we're going -1, it's taking the last character. So there is no such thing as -0. So 0 is our 0th character, the very first character that we see in the string. And -1 is the very last character in the string. So -2 would be the second to last character in the string. And of course we can also do this with a range. We can do a range of say -4 to -2. I'd now like to give you an exercise. Take the string "the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog." Based on what you've learned in this lesson, I'd like you to reverse the string, capitalize every letter, count the characters. I'd like you to generate a new string, which is the first 10 characters of the input string. Generate a new string, which is the last 2 characters of the input string. And determine the 5th character of the string. As an extra special credit, what is special about this string?